Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and our journey through the Pixar canon of feature films and short films before the release of The Incredibles 2, their 20th feature film, this summer. Let's take a look at their 14th feature film and already their second sequel of this decade, Monsters University. We are launched straight into the story as we go back in time with a young Mike Wazowski and his class at school on a coach trip to the Monsters Inc. factory. Mike, tired of being the short monster at the back of the class that nobody respects, fights his way to the front and enters one of the scare doors in the factory alongside a monster working at the factory. The workers are impressed at how Mike manages to stay in there without being detected. Fast forward a few years and Mike is back on the bus, this time on the way to Monsters University. We're quick to learn that in contrast to the presentation of this character in the original Monsters Inc., Mike is now a SWAT in the early days, desperate to prove himself on the scare program at the university by cramming his head with knowledge from textbooks. Mike shares a dorm room with Randall, one of the original film's antagonists, and it's interesting to see how their relationship deteriorates throughout this story as they end up in two teams competing against each other. Mike Wazowski meets James P. Sullivan, who makes an entrance in one of their classes and immediately takes a dislike to his cockiness and insistence that books won't teach you everything. When Mike and Sully end up accidentally destroying the intimidating Dean Hardscrabble's scare can and are consequently dropped from the scare program, it's down to the pair to join forces with a band of outsiders to form Oozma Kappa, who will compete to win the scare competition at the university. If they win, the Dean will allow them back onto the scare program at the university. Original Monsters Inc. director Pete Docter was busy working on the next Pixar feature, the original story Inside Out, so did not return to the director's chair for this prequel. Instead, another Pixar first-time director, Dan Scanlon, has his chance to shine. Docter would executive produce the film, though. From 2007 until 2010, Pixar produced some of their very best work. Ratatouille through Toy Story 3 was a golden age for the studio, but the last two features, Cars 2 and Brave, have been below par. Thankfully, Monsters University sees the studio back on the right path. Randy Newman is back on composing duties once again, for the first time since his Oscar win for the song We Belong Together from Toy Story 3. But just as with the first Monsters adventure, neither its score nor the film itself would win Oscars. Billy Crystal, John Goodman, Steve Buscemi are all back as Mike, Sully and Randall, and Pixar welcome acting royalty Dame Helen Mirren to the fold as the voice of the university, Dean Hardscrabble. Dave Foley, the voice of Flick from A Bug's Life, also returns to Pixar as the voice of character Terry, and Peter Son, who has voiced a number of Pixar's characters, most popular being Emile the Rat in Ratatouille, is Oozma Kappa's Squishy. He'll also go on next to direct Pixar's 2015 feature The Good Dinosaur. Oozma Kappa win the scare games on the final simulator, but Mike discovers that Sully rigged the settings on the simulator to make it easier for Mike and the team to win. Sully was worried that Mike isn't scary enough to frighten the kid in the simulator. The Crawford-Clark close-up standout scene involves Sully confessing to Mike by the lake that he acts scary, but most of the time I'm terrified. It's a sweet little heart-to-heart that connects these two lovable characters and shows that they're both looking out for one another. Both characters are expelled from the university by the dean, but they work their way up through the ranks at Monsters Inc., from mailroom buddies to janitors, to cooks in the cafeteria, until finally, at the end of the film, we see Mike and Sully about to start their first day as scarers. Monsters University is a fun prequel to one of the most beloved Pixar films. It's fun to see how Mike and Sully first met and became the buddies that we know and love. There's a lot of fun set pieces here and some great humour that's up there with the best of Pixar. And yet, it still doesn't hold a candle to Monsters Inc. It's a breeze to watch, but there's a little substance here to really engage the fans that fell in love with these characters in the first place. From Crawford-Clark Close-Up, we say...
Take a chance on me.
Sorry.
What do you think of Monsters University? Are we back to golden Pixar? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and if you like this review, please subscribe to the channel. You can follow Crawford-Clark Close-Up on Facebook and Twitter, and you can email us your thoughts and suggestions for the channel, crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Up next, as we edge ever closer to The Incredibles 2 this summer, we review one of Pixar's most original stories and their 15th feature film in 20 years, Inside Out. Until then, thanks for watching, and that's a wrap.